English when I was younger.
Used to what?
My English used to be better when I was younger.
Sure.
When I went to the States to learn. I went to Florida.
Paso desde París hacia la vuelta a Estados Unidos. Estaremos hasta que yo lo estime oportuno, entiendo que dos y pico. Por supuesto, esto tiene que ser, o se presupone que tiene que ser sumamente interactivo. Para aquellas personas que estéis o que conozcáis o que no conozcáis, que estén en este instante viendo la retransmisión en directo a través de nuestro canal de YouTube, también podéis lanzar cualquier tipo de pregunta a través de Twitter. El hashtag es Kickstarter CICE para que podamos recoger cualquier tipo de pregunta y trasladársela a cualquiera de los dos para que os den cumplida respuesta. Ya se presentarán ellos y evidentemente os dirán quiénes son y qué es lo que van a hacer a lo largo de la próxima hora, hora y pico. Y lo único que sí que os pediría a partir de este instante, por motivos obvios, es que los móviles los mantengamos en silencio, no apagados, obviamente podéis utilizarlos, pero sí que los tengamos en silencio para respetar lo que os va a contar Luz, que por lo que he preguntado a la sesión de profesionales que acaba de concluir, pues es sumamente interesante. ¿Alguna duda? ¿Todo claro? Pues comenzamos y lo disfrutéis.
Bueno, buenos días a todos. Voy a presentar yo en español primero. Ya os advierto, la charla va a ser completamente en inglés, porque no tiene sentido hacer traducción consecutiva, porque al final se pierde la mitad del contenido. Entonces, mejor que sea lo más dinámico posible. Yo creo que más o menos todos entendéis un poquito, y si no, deberíais. Eso después. Se lo decía antes a Luke, si estás en este entorno, en este mundo, y no sabes inglés, ponte primero a ello y después vuelve, porque al final nos va a hacer falta a todos, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, como os decía, va a hablar la presentación va a ser en inglés, yo voy a estar sobre todo como apoyo. Yo soy Fernando Prieto, nosotros fuimos la primera empresa española que lanzamos un proyecto en Kickstarter en el año 2012, el proyecto de ARK, que tuvimos éxito en el año 2013 después. Y a raíz de ahí pues montamos una empresa en Florida también, en Estados Unidos, para ayudar a que proyectos españoles, que hasta ahora no podían presentarse en España desde España, como va a ser el caso a partir de la semana que viene, ayudamos a la gente pues, a trasladarse a lanzarse en Kickstarter directamente en Estados Unidos, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, llevamos hablando desde hace mucho tiempo, el año pasado ya coincidimos con gente de Kickstarter en España y la verdad es que pues, han tenido la amabilidad de contactar con nosotros y de venir a España a presentar y a explicar antes de que sea el lanzamiento la semana que viene pues qué es Kickstarter, cómo funciona, por qué es bueno, por qué es importante para los proyectos creativos. Y la verdad, él es el Games Lead de Kickstarter, Luke, él mismo es un profesional del mundo del videojuego, es decir, sabe un montón de videojuegos, ha analizado miles de proyectos, o sea que tenéis una oportunidad magnífica de una de las personas que más sabe de los entresijos de Kickstarter, está aquí con vosotros, o sea que aprovechadlo, hacedle muchas preguntas, torturadlo, and tell them to torture you. In the good sense.
Sure, in the Spanish sense. That has quite a reputation.
Bueno, nada más, eso. Le dejo a él, que es el realmente importante, y aprovechad mucho. Si hay alguna pregunta que realmente no, digamos, que no queda muy clara o tal, pues yo lo que intentaré es básicamente ayudar para moderar un poco y que queden todas las cosas lo más claras posible. ¿Vale? Pues, it's your turn.
Okay. So, as Fernando and Marco said, I am Luke. I apologize for being useless in Spanish. I can order some food maybe. I can say no lechuga. But that's about it. I hope I don't speak too rapidly in English, but I'm going to, I have a presentation, lots of delicious numbers, so it should be pretty easy to follow along. But I wanted to ask a couple questions before we get started. As you can see, I'm the games guy at Kickstarter. I've backed a lot of projects. I have also created 4 projects. I have 2 on this account and 2 on another account because I'm a crazy person. I've done 2 games and 2 comic books on Kickstarter, and I'm planning my 5th because every time I do one, I say never again. So and you can see I back a diverse range of projects, but mostly games. So I wanted to ask some questions about you a little bit before we get started. Who are you familiar with Kickstarter? Is anyone not familiar with Kickstarter? Is anyone like, what am I doing? Okay, good. Has anyone backed a project on Kickstarter? Has anyone? Okay, pledged a project. Okay, cool. Has anyone made a project on Kickstarter? Has anyone created? Okay, that's okay. Good. I just want to know where we are. Is anyone? Are you game designers? Game publishers? Yeah. Yep. Comic books? Anyone else? Any other creative stuff? No? What are the rest of you doing? You didn't raise your hand for anything, right? So is anyone interested in launching a Kickstarter project in the future? Okay. Cool.
He's not, but he raised the hand.
Okay. So I will give some big starting numbers about Kickstarter overall. We'll talk about Kickstarter kind of in general, and then we will drill down. And we'll talk, many of my examples are about video games later, which is cool. Is anyone thinking about board games or card games, doing a project like that for role-playing games or, yeah, okay, all right. Video games, everyone thinking about video games? Is that, okay, that's fine, good. But all right, I have one request though, before we start, one last thing. Let me see if we can do this. I'm gonna take a picture. So, yeah, you can wave, say hello from Madrid. Yeah, pretend that you're having fun. Yeah. All right, okay. 1, 2, 3. Say hello, come on, wave, come on. All right, cool. This is, I was telling Fernando, I send the pictures back to my team so they don't think that I'm on a beach somewhere. Let them know I'm working on Saturday. Okay. So the main reason I am here, of course, is to tell you, yay, that as I said, Kickstarter is opening in Spain. On Tuesday, you'll be able to launch a project directly from Spain using your own identity. You don't have to know magic tricks anymore to launch a project. And you will launch a project in euros. You will collect in euros. It will all be good. No having to launch a project in dollars or pounds or anything like that. I'm very excited about this. One of the reasons I actually I made a special trip here because I think that the creative community in Spain is very alive and very interesting. And as we'll see, you'll see some examples of some really beautiful games. And I want to do what I can to let people know. So spread the word if you can. But we'll start. So Kickstarter, our motto, right? Create something to share with others. I think it's important to start here. We'll talk mostly about games, though you can do more than games on Kickstarter. So what does this mean? What does create something to share with others? So we think about things on Kickstarter in terms of a project, a creative project. So it is not, hey, I'm a game designer, give me some money. Right? I'm making a game. Or I'm going to run a gaming event. Or I want to add a new feature to my existing game. Right? So those are projects, right? Things that have a beginning and an end. And then and it's not just games, though. This is, I think, one of the more beautiful things about Kickstarter is that your game will be next to art and literature, technology, dance. And so we have almost accidentally made games culture, right? We've elevated games and made them a part of creative culture. Just beautiful. They are, and they should be. So, but it happened by accident on Kickstarter, really. So it's good. So your project will be next to all these other beautiful projects. It'll look great. But the only other thing, about the, it's a game and it has a beginning and an end. Just to remind you, right, no charity on Kickstarter, no like, we're gonna raise money to donate to the sick, which is a good thing. We donate to charity at Kickstarter, but we don't allow projects for it. And no equity, I don't know how to, does that make sense? So you can't offer someone a percentage of your company, say you back my project, you get 10%. None of that. It's a rewards-based platform, that's what we call it. So you support my game, I give you a copy of the game. Or a great reward is I come to my house and I play the game with you. I'll tell you a secret about one of my friends. One of my friends was once in another life a lawyer, right? So he paid $10,000 for a Kickstarter reward. To have the game creator come to his house and play the game for all night with him and his friends. And he said he did not regret it. He said he would do it again if he had the money. He's not a lawyer anymore. But damn lawyer money, right? Okay, so another aspect of the platform is it's what we call all or nothing funding. Todo y nada?
Todo nada.
Todo nada. Meaning you set an amount of money that you need for your campaign. You set a duration. You say 15 days, 30 days, 60 days. Don't set 60 days. And then if you raise the money by the end of the duration, you collect the money goes into your bank account, millions of dollars flooding in. And if you don't, no one is charged. If you need $10,000 and you raise $5,000 at the end of 30 days, nobody is billed, no money is collected. It's a really beautiful model. It's very simple. Story about your campaign, about your project. You automatically have the seeds of the narrative, right? You have the beginning, the launch of the project, you have the end. You don't know what the end is going to be except that it must end. And this creates excitement, right? You need to raise $10,000 and on the last day you have $9,000, and so your backers are saying, to their friends, I really want to see it completed, right? It creates this beautiful surge. And it also protects the backers. This is another kind of hidden aspect, is if you need $10,000 to make a game, but you only raised $5,000, and if you collected that $5,000, what do? Now you have the backers' money, but you don't have enough money to make the game. So it's a nice, simple model that works very well. My last project that I ran was a project that funded on the last day. It funded in the last 12 hours of the last day. When it funded, I was like, I ran outside. I was at my office. I ran outside around the. It was. I learned a lot though. I resolved myself. I had what I would say is I had resigned to death. I put on my shroud and was like, I will walk into the sea. That phenomena happened where everyone got behind it and back. So it was very exciting. But I learned a lot about what it takes. I learned more doing that campaign that just missed or just hit rather than I did with my other campaigns. Like at one campaign I had funded in 2 hours, and that's just like a month-long. Which is nice. Okay, so 85,000 projects have funded on Kickstarter to date. 85,000 creative projects. That's so fucking cool. And we have seen people pledge to support those projects $1.7 billion, which is about, as we said, today is about maybe 1.5 billion euros-ish. So, yeah, so it's a model that works. The all or nothing funding and the creative projects, it totally works, proven. And we have a community of 8.6 million, what we call backers, people who support your campaign. That's our term, backers. And this repeat backers. So who's backed the Kickstarter project? It's just a couple of you, right? Have you backed one, two, right? Two, right? Yeah, 196. But the repeat backers are so important, even though they are the minority, but the people that come back and back more than one, right? First-time backers are 40%. Repeat backers make up 60% of the money on Kickstarter, and so this is now we start to see something. This is evidence of something that's happening on Kickstarter, and that at Kickstarter we throw around the C word, we throw around community. Everybody does. Everyone talks about their online community. Well, here we start to see an indication of it, that people do come back to Kickstarter and they do feel invested in the system and the projects, and are willing to continue to invest money. There definitely is a community on Kickstarter, and we will talk about it more as we go. Right. Okay. So another important thing to know about Kickstarter is site-wide, across all categories, 40% of projects are successful. I like this number. But it's important to say right off the bat, like you flip it, 60% of projects are unsuccessful. Projects on Kickstarter are unsuccessful. So when you launch a project, you're under the gun. There's no guarantee of success, right? But that's good. This means that backers are not just throwing French train tickets at at projects. That was supposed to be money. Backers are not just if this was 100%, 99%, there would be something wrong. There would be the projects would be very bad. Oh yeah, give me money. I'm making a crappy game, and obviously if this were lower than this, it gets problematic. But 40% means that people are smart. They're willing to participate, but they want to see that you can do a good project. They want to see a good idea, and if that's there, then boom, they support you. So yeah, I love this number. But I will tell you some secret numbers. I love secret numbers. I have lots of secret numbers today. We'll see which ones I can remember. So what do you think the numbers are for games? Let's talk about games for a second. So let's split. The two main games categories are video games and what we call tabletop games in the States, so board games and card games. So what do you think the success rate is for video games? 17 or 18%, pretty good, sir. Did you look at my slides? 20% for video games, 20% success rate for video games. So it is a hard world for video games, and honestly, that's I've seen the number dip as low as 14% for video games. What about for games? What do you think? For board games and card games, what do you think the success rate is? 5%? You don't know? You have no faith in the board and card games? So board and card games, contrary to what you might think, currently 52, but it tends to hover somewhere around 48 to 52%, which is amazing that you're actually, with board games right now, you're a little more likely to be successful. Board games, tabletop games are a very big, so you might think about them, maybe designing some. We'll talk more about them later. Okay, so this is something to think about as we're going to talk about Spain. Like Kickstarter is an international platform, and we have backers that come from all over. It's great. Know who's missing? Some one country?
North Korea, maybe.
North Korea?
Probably.
I still think it's Liechtenstein, but yeah. So, but we have a very famous backer in Antarctica. He would back from like McMurdo Station down there. It was really, we were like looking at the IP coming in and the identifier. We're like, what the hell? We did an interview with him and talked about once he was back on a real continent. We talked to him. It's very cool. So will be exposed to backers all around the world when you beautiful. I've thrown out some very big numbers already, 85,000, 1.7 billion, and the numbers for the examples that I will give are also pretty big, nice, good examples, but it's important to keep this in mind as we go forward, that the most projects fund around $10,000. Small projects are the heart and soul of Kickstarter. This is good. This means that you don't need to be a rock star. Like there's a myth about Kickstarter that you need to have, a huge following and be famous and all this stuff. It's not true. You might not be able to fund your beautiful $1 million MMORPG, but you can. It's very reasonable for you to raise easily $10,000 to finish a game. All right. And now we're going to talk specifically about games, mostly video games. Did anyone back Pillars of Eternity? Did anyone know Pillars of Eternity? This came out in 2012, just as I started at Kickstarter. It was a RPG called Project Eternity at the time, and they changed the name to Pillars of Eternity. But yeah, they had 73,000 backers. They raised nearly $4 million, and it was released last month to. So I'm a proud papa. All right, and now we're gonna watch a little video. Yeah. My coworker put that together. Very inspiring. I want to make another game now. So, including those games, there have been 5,500 successful games to date. So, of the 85,000 projects on Kickstarter, right, a very small portion of them have been games, and an even smaller portion of those games have been successful. And which is remarkable when you see like there's so many amazing games in this, small batch. So then that includes Conan. So this is a game. This was a miniatures board game that was published by Monolith company from southern France. And if you are not aware that this is Conan, obviously, but this gray plastic miniature is a really fucking big deal on Kickstarter. People go nuts for these things on Kickstarter. And I have my theories about it. I think that Kickstarter is actually a very good platform for this particular type of product, better than even like a store, because in the store it's in a package, it's very tiny, what is it? Or maybe it's in a box, but on Kickstarter you can have the beautiful pictures and the video and all the, the renders and the paint, like you can make it look just gorgeous. You can have the cool art. So yeah, so they raised $3 million, 16,000 backers in February with selling little plastic barbarians. This big. Yeah, I've seen it. It's this big. Yeah. So $355 million pledged to Kickstarter to date, which is fabulous. It makes us the biggest category by dollars pledged on Kickstarter. Music has the most funded projects. I think film is the most projects launched categories on Kickstarter, but games, most money pledged. And to a very small amount, like music, the music category on Kickstarter has something like 30,000 funded projects. But with games, with 5,500 successful projects, we've raised $355 million, which is fantastic. If you do and put this in the perspective of all games everywhere, this is, not like 1 day of earnings for GTA 5, right? It's still pretty small, but still, 355 million. It's a lot of money, including Exploding Kittens. Does anyone know? Did this reach this far over here? Okay, so this is a really important project, and it kind of puts everything in perspective. Crazy card game by these American dudes, a comic book artist, game designer. This project is the most funded game, $8.7 million. So it beats the Ouya, it beats Torment. The next highest funded game is like $4 million. So this is the most high. The really important number about this project is that 219,000 people backed it, which the number 2 project for backers is like 105,000 people. So this, and that's a game that the number 2 project is about child literacy in the US, about reading, and it was backed by a celebrity, very popular. But this dumb card game has twice as many backers and is that much more popular, which is beautiful. Like this is an enormous amount of people. But also, it's just important to keep this in mind as you're thinking about your grand dreams of your game empire. That the most popular game on Kickstarter raised $8.7 million. For a games budget, that's small. That's not like if you want to run your MMO studio. It's not a lot of money. So you have to think about what's possible on Kickstarter, even when you're very popular. So those 219,000 people make up a significant portion of the 1.6 million backers in games. Again, you think about this, like 1.6 million people have pledged $355 million on Kickstarter. So it's a very passionate group of people, very passionate community. But also so small. If you, do you know Steam? The Steam platform for PC? Steam's user base, Steam is a small platform, obviously very big and very influential now, but like compared to Xbox Live and PSN is small. Steam has 70 million users, which just blows my mind. And so we have 1.6 million people in games who are doing this amazing work at funding these games and getting these new and cool games out into the world. But it also means that we can grow. We can grow a lot, which is good for us. So of those 1.6 million people, 24,000 of them backed this game called Hyper Light Drifter. It's a obviously kind of retro 16-bit platformer, sort of. This game, the summer of 2013, which was a crazy summer for Kickstarter, they raised $645,000. They were asking for $30,000, and the project just blew up. Hyper Light Drifter, this project changed the way everyone saw video games projects on Kickstarter because of this. They were the first project to bring animated GIFs, really use them and really use them well. And just their project, other projects were, just a nice video and some static pictures. And then the whole project was moving. He's shooting aliens, he's chopping up aliens, he's running around. And suddenly everyone, the next day, literally the next day, everyone had animated GIFs on their projects on Kickstarter. It was really interesting. And now I'm not saying that you should imitate Hyper Light Drifter. I'm saying that think about the best way to show what you're making and be creative. So just to drill down, to talk a little bit, we have so far 1,400 and let's say 50 successful video games projects. So again, of the 5,500, pretty small. Card games and board games make up 3,500 successful projects, and then the rest are playing cards and live games and other weirdness. But yeah, so not too many, but another one. Games is this game called Strafe. I love this GIF. So they have an amazing presentation on their game, and they had nearly 5,000 backers. But what I loved about this project, their video is incredible. It's one of the best project videos I've ever seen. It's worth watching if you haven't watched it. But they asked for a very honest amount of money. They were first-time developers, never run a game before. They, in fact, were music video directors who decided that they wanted to make a game and had been working on it for a year or so before, and of course had spent all their money and run out and moved to LA and asked for $185,000 right out of the gate. Really, I respected them for this. It was to fund a team of 3 people for a year to finish a game or get a game to the next stage. It's a very honest amount. But they were so nervous. I was on the they were saying, no, we're not going to make it. We should cancel and relaunch. And it's just it's going to be okay. It's going to be so much of my job is hugging creators and saying it's all right. It's going to be all right. You're going to make it. I swear. And they did. They made it. They ended up raising $207,000. Great campaign, and this also benefited from the limit of the all or nothing. When in their last week when they were $50,000 off or something, the whole community rallied. Everyone was like, "This game must be funded." Press, everyone. It was great. It was really fun to watch. And they contributed to the $154 million that have been pledged to video games so far. It's a nice, healthy amount of money of the 355. Though an interesting fact is that the tabletop games, the board games and card games, have recently overtaken video games, and they're 160 million pledged right now. There's a very strong community for those games. But for video games, that includes this game Crowfall, which funded $1 million, and from 16,000 backers. They're making an MMO for Crowfall, so $1.7 million is a lot of money. I would like to have that money, but it is not enough to fund an MMO. So what they're doing here is they're a big team. They have a pedigree of games that they've worked on, Star Republic, all that stuff. But they're asking for a portion of their budget. They're raising they're raising money to get them to the next stage, to demonstrate interest in the game, and then they will probably take outside funding from their investors. Right, and video games in specific, so of the backers in games, 1.2 million of them have backed a video games project. So it is, it's an even smaller audience which does this heroic work. Tabletop games is even smaller. Tabletop games is 775,000 people who have raised 160 million. So it's a very dedicated group of people, and it really, like as I said, like when you start looking at the numbers, you just start seeing evidence of this community. And what will happen on Kickstarter is that when you launch your project, friends, it'll be your family, it'll be the people that you talk to while you're developing. But then you'll start to see just people come out of nowhere, people you don't know, who could never know you, and they will start backing your project and supporting you and talking about your project. It's amazing. In my first project, I thought maybe we would get 400 backers, because I kind of knew my networks well enough to think like we can generally attract 400 people to something that we're doing on the web. But those 400 people came, and then they kept coming, like people I had no idea, never met. So it's very nice. It's a nice experience on Kickstarter if you can get to that point. Right, and of those, this is another example, 61,000 people back Wasteland 2, which is a sequel to a post-apocalyptic RPG on Kickstarter. But this is also something to look forward to, this page. The way it's presented, this is what happens to your project now after you're funded. You can add a nice background, you can change the image, and you can, most importantly, you can put a link on your project now. Say you can go buy the game here, or you can follow us on our website. This is a new feature. Previously, your project would just stop. That's it, no idea what's going on. But yeah, now you can modify things to send people in the right direction and make it look pretty. All right, so let's talk about Spain. The right slide. So the numbers for Spain that I'm going to go over with you, they're small. You're going to see, of the $3.2 million that were pledged from Spanish backers to all projects on Kickstarter, that's smaller than some of the money raised for one of the projects that I showed you, right? That's smaller than Project Eternity. 19,000 backers. I mean, that's like 1/10 or something of Exploding Kittens, or even 1/12. But what I want you to look at with these numbers, not that, Spain, it's so small, but that this is all happening before Kickstarter is even here, right? Before, that you could legally launch a Spanish project here. So this is the seed. This is the beginning of what can grow here in Spain, and I really think there's a lot of opportunity. So there have been 17,000 games backers in Spain so far. It's not a lot, but also it's a good amount. That's a nice if you can activate for your games to touch 1/10 of this community, you're hugely successful. You don't even have to reach them all. And for example, CICE Lost, which is a Spanish game that they managed to attract 5,900 backers to their project, and they raised $144,000 for a very beautiful project, very nice presentation. Obviously, they're using the new format. Great project, really cool game, really weird. So Spanish games backers, so from Spain to all games in all countries, people have pledged 1.2 million. So right, again, not a huge amount, but it means that there are people here that are willing to contribute money to games, as we know. And for example, to ARC, where ARC had 879 backers from Spain, but also from other countries, and raised $100,000, over $100,000. Another really cool Spanish project. It's Fernando's project. So right, and then for you to list your, or Kickstarter was available here. You could say, well, I'm in Barcelona or I'm in Madrid, list your location there. And so for video game as being in Spain, they raised $1 million so far. And that's without us even being here, without any support or PR or anything. So I think that there's I think that's a good start. For example, Anima, Gate of Memories, another Spanish project, another Spanish game, 1,500 backers, $110,000. Like these projects that I'm showing you are successful by any measure. They're not like, oh, pretty good for Spain. These are like, this is like a top 90th percentile for a game on Kickstarter, period. Right? $100,000 project is a big deal. This is great. This is very, very exciting. So, I've been talking a lot. So before I wrap up and let you ask me some questions, I'm gonna give you three small things to think about if you want to create a Kickstarter project. Three examples, and then we will do some questions. So 307, think of it as like a magic number. So most successful video game projects have 307 or less. 307 or less people. Now, I don't know if any of you know or know 307 people who just give you money if you ask them, and if you do, well, good for you. But even if you don't, this is an achievable number. If you begin talking to people and friends of friends and friends of friends and friends, you can probably reach 307 people and get them to back your project. It takes some work, some networking, and some planning. It takes some time, right? It's not something you're going to do in a day. But going back to a modest project of $10,000 can you can fund that with 307 people very easily. You don't have to have 60,000 people. And for example, this is another Spanish project. 285 backers. They raised £4,000, 4.6 for the last door. They made a cool point-and-click adventure, kind of dark and gory. Killed a piano player, and you can't really see it there. But right, so you want to think about if you don't have an audience, if you don't have a lot of experience developing games, but you want to try, which I support, completely 100% support. Set a modest goal. Make a small game. Experiment with the platform. Build your audience using Kickstarter. Take a small success. Tell those backers to support your next project or support your friend's project, and build that community there. It's totally possible because and people do it every day. $8,000 is the most common successful goal, right? So most, not most video games, not accurate, but there's a huge block of video games that are funding at $8,000 or around $8,000, and that's like 307 people. $1,000 for you. So right, these are two very achievable numbers, two very attainable goals. And for example, this was Lord of the Pigs, a Spanish card game, 2 to 4 players. Right, they raised £5,000, which is about $8,000, from just 123 people. And there's also some that that speak to kind of the momentum of a project on Kickstarter. That it's not just getting like 307. Even 307 is like, oh God, that's a lot. Like my family, I don't have 307 people in my family. But there's stages of success. Stage of success for a project is one backer, right? If you get one backer, you increase your chances of success by an enormous amount. If you get 25 backers, you put yourself in like the 75th percentile of chance of success, right? So you go from, I think you go, like with one backer, I think you even go, or 10 backers, something like 60% chance of success, then to percent chance of success, and then even just with 30 backers, right? All of our numbers show that if you can just get 30 backers, the projects that do that, 80% of them are successful. So so there's no guarantee. I mean, 80% is not 100%, but just thinking in terms of, okay, who can I get day one to back my project, right? Now, where can I get the next 30 people to back my project? And these small steps give you a huge chance of success, like vastly increase your chance of success. Right, and or $15. So for video games in particular, this is the most common reward tier. This is what video game backers prefer to pay. But it doesn't mean that this should be your only reward, and you should kind of cheapen your game. You should never cheapen your game. You should always ask for what your game is worth. But it's important to know this number. It's important to think like, what can I offer for $15, right? And then how can I increase the value and encourage people to pledge more? Can I offer an experience? Can I offer to put their face in the game and give that as a $50 reward tier? Can I offer to allow them to be a named character for $100? Like, so thinking of this as a starting point to build the scheme of your rewards will give you a great start. Those are my. And the last example, of course, is Crossing Souls, which is another Spanish video games project. 683 backers, a pledge to their $15 reward tier for their making it the most common reward tier, and they were successful, obviously, and very beautiful. So that is my last example, and I'm happy to take questions if you have any. If I did not all my numbers, yeah.
Which is the ideal schedule about the time schedule to put your project? 1 month, 2 months?
Oh, okay. So what's the best length for a project? So set your project duration from 1 to 60 days on Kickstarter. For video games, you will hear, if you go to websites and you do some reading, you will hear people, this day, 32 days, 35 days. 30 days is probably enough to start. There's a lot of our numbers point to 30 days being the most successful time frame. Also, a Kickstarter project work when it's live, and thinking that I'll increase my chances of success if it's 60 days. It doesn't work like that. One, it's just way more work for you, but you also stretch the story, so you lose the excitement, right? When you get that excitement at the end, so you almost want to make your campaign as short as you can, so you can keep the excitement going through the whole thing. So I ran a campaign for 30 days. My first campaign for 30 days, I wished, actually 2 of my campaigns, my 2 games campaigns, I wish I did them for 15. And just because for me, I don't want to just vacuum up money and just that's not why I do my projects. I have a very specific goal. I want to raise the money for production, right? And I want to make a certain amount of units in production, and that's it. And I don't want to deal with anything else. And so for me, that 30 days and people more things, I'm like, it's just more problems now. So you have many options, but I think for your first campaign, stick to 30 days. It'd be good.
We have some questions, online questions.
Oh, all right, cyber questions.
Yeah, that's right. One name is Jan Yo Mismo. Do I need a breakdown of the money for your project, or just need a number?
Right. The budget, right?
Yeah, the budget.
Right. So cyber question guy. What is his name?
Jan Yo Mismo. Like Jan myself.
Jan Yo Mismo. Jan myself?
Yo Mismo is myself.
Ah, okay. Jan Yo Mismo. So he's asking, right, what do I need a budget breakdown? You want to give some details, but not too many. Kind of what we call a high-level breakdown of your budget. So maybe 60% production, 20% to rent, and then 20% to shipping or something like that. You want to percentages don't. Jan, myself, don't give exact numbers. Don't say we're going to spend this many dollars on this, because it doesn't work like that. That's just not, you don't know how much money you're going to make. You don't know how much things are actually going to cost on the other side. There's always hidden costs. There's always unforeseen things. So, you know, a rough budget, I think, is good. It helps people trust you. It shows that you've thought about this. You're being smart about it. You're not just saying like, yeah, we're going to make a game, whatever, just some money. But too many details invites questions that you don't have answers to. Does that make sense?
There's another question that I think it's
All right, one more cyber question.
Yeah, there was a couple, 3 or 4. It's MDev Games. The question: how many projects we will launch from Spain the next Thursday?
I don't know. I'm. How many projects will launch from Spain? I honestly don't know.
No.
I can't even speculate. I have my hopes, but you know, like probably less than 100, based on our other recent launches. But that's a lot. That is a lot of projects to launch in a day. Well, any questions in the room? We'll pause on the cyber questions. Wait, you already asked a question, so hold on. We'll get back to you. Yep.
First, sorry for my English, but
It's fine.
I can practice so much. But we have a project. This project we won PlayStation Awards, and the video game is at 50%. Here in Spain, it's so difficult to go bank or something like that because I don't know. Nobody here in Spain trusts in video games, in the industry of the video games.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, you have awards, but what's the revenue of this of the sale of these games?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because you don't know
Sure.
what's the impact of the game. And
Right.
in Kickstarter, you help to us to do this,
Mm-hmm.
to
If it
expand.
would be possible if we go into the platform to show how is our case. We are at the
Because
50% of production,
Yeah.
and we need money for 50%.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah. This is.
So in our case,
This is current.
we have a lot of impact because we are working hand to hand with Sony. So we think that is very important.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to ask you is if it's to get into the platform. All projects can go into the platform.
Yeah. So any fee? Is that what you said?
Filter.
A filter. Oh, yeah. Yes, there is a filter. So let me just address this to the internets and to the room. So, can you raise finishing funds on Kickstarter? Right? You've funded 50% of your game. Your game is 50% complete. You need to take it to the end. That's a perfect time to use Kickstarter. You can show your work. You can show everything you've done. You can show your art assets. You can show that. You can demonstrate that you're dedicated to the project, to your potential backers, and you don't need. You can ask for less money, right? You don't need to raise all of the money for the game. Now you can say like, we just need to close this part of our budget. I see this all the time on Kickstarter, and it's a perfect case.
You said before the price of the recompensa, the reward. For example, our game costs 10 euros. If I put a reward of 10 euros, I lose money with the project because I'm getting free my game.
I don't quite understand.
¿Qué es lo que quieres?
No, es que antes ha visto que había una recompensa de 15 euros que tú le dabas a los que, o sea, los que ponían dinero, pero lo he entendido mal.
Entendí mal. Luke said that the most used or the most backed reward was the $15 tier.
Lo que suele poner la gente 15 euros.
Que la recompensa más utilizada es la de $15, lo cual no quiere decir ni que sea la única.
Ni que con ella tengas que dar algo a cambio.
No, si la pones, sí.
Claro.
Pero si no la pones, o sea, puedes ponerla por encima. Tú puedes poner la que quieras. Esa es la más utilizada, lo cual no quiere decir que tengas obligación de ponerla tú. I'm explaining to him that he understood that they had to put
Right.
a $15 reward,
Right.
$15 reward.
No. Yeah, that's just, yeah. never undervalue your game ever, no matter what you're making, period. The stats are nice, but there's always exceptions, and you must always price your game according to needs and to protect you as a creator and to make sure that you are making, what you need to be successful. Like people, I see it all the time. People like discount their game very deeply. It's bad. It's bad for business. It's bad for the project. And if you fail, if you price your game at $75 and you've learned something, right? That's it. It doesn't cost you anything. And then you can go from there, right? But if you cheapen your game, if you put your game, if your game would retail for 20 and you put it for 5 or 10, that's just going to hurt you in the long run. Don't do that. Yeah. Any other questions over here? Don't make me go to the internet.
What about the filters?
Right, filters. Yeah. So as I said, there are some rules. There's no charity, no equity, no pornography, no weapons, and not like in Hyper Light Drifter, but no rifles or on Kickstarter, no swords. That's about it for games. There's maybe a few other things, but the games is very, very easy to get accepted. So your project maybe will get flagged by a filter, but then it'll just get approved, like if it gets flagged. So, it'll take 1 or 2 days at the most.
You have to present maybe a dossier del proyecto, ¿no? Es que no sé cómo se dice en inglés. A presentation about the project.
Subir toda la información del proyecto, relevante, el vídeo, las fotos, el arte.
Your project will look like this. You will have a description, you will have a title, you will have an image. Behind the image will be a video, and then down here will be the description. And you must have all of that to submit. You don't accept the video. Video is not required. But the description and rewards, all those things you must have. You will get reviewed. You will get approved in 1 or 2 days. It'll be fine. You'll making money.
When is the ideal moment to go with the project to Kickstarter? Because a lot of people is afraid of I'm showing an idea and it's easier to steal or I don't know. It's better to have 50% developed before go.
So that's when do you go with your idea?
Yeah.
Right, very important consideration. So it's not an easy answer. Of course you want to be able to roll up to Kickstarter with your magical idea and be like, I've solved the world's problems in a game, give me money.
Like Tim Schafer, you said? Like Tim Schafer?
Like Tim Schafer, right.
He didn't show even a... some of the like Tim Schafer and other like big names, they just roll up and they just say I want to make a game and people support them. So so if you have an audience, if you have a very loyal community, you can do that, no problem. Just come up with an idea. For the rest of us, my advice is to take it as far as you can before you need the funds, you need the money. You also want to take it as far as you can because the Kickstarter is a distraction in a way. I love making games. I don't love running Kickstarter projects. And once you run the project, once you involve those people in your game, they're a part of your daily life, until like forever, really, even after the game is done and after they have it. So if you're still making the game and dealing with them, it becomes very difficult. There's a lot of goes into maintaining that community. So I like to think that you do as much work as possible and then you raise the funds. But also you need to be realistic. If you have a very big idea that you haven't done any work on yet,
think first, would I back that? Would I give money to that? And if not, then, you know. But also, like, for ideas, everyone has ideas, so price your Kickstarter accordingly, you know, and scope it accordingly. If it's just an idea and you want to get started, then make it a small project and build from there. I've seen people do it. I've seen people roll up to the platform with just an idea and then keep adding like parts of the game onto it as they go. So it can work. But the current model is showing up with something built, something you can show for the game, art assets or animation or whatever. But yeah, but it's not required. Over there, yep.
You set a goal of 100 Ks and you get 150. The first question is,
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yes.
And what happened? Who decides what happened with the excess 50 Ks?
We make a big pile of money. Just and then we make a video and we send it to you. Look at all your money. My project, let me see, the last project I ran, I think I needed 26,000 for it, and I made 27 or 28, maybe 27. So we call that overfunding. But like a better example is like Bloodstained or one of the big projects running. You know, they asked for, they now have 2.7 million, right? At the end of the project, when the project closes at the funding duration, Kickstarter takes a 5% fee of all of the money collected. There will be also a credit card processing fee. Sorry. There'll be a credit card processing fee. Usually about 3%, 3.x%. So think about 8% of the money is going to go away from that, and then maybe 1 to 2% of the money will disappear from credit cards that fail, right? People's credit cards error, or they're expired or something, so 1 or 2% there. So about maybe 10% of the money will be in flux, and goes into your bank account. So if you were looking to raise $100,000 and you raise $150,000, $15,000 will go to fees and other stuff, and then the $135,000 goes into your bank account. So yeah, so raise more money. Any?
¿Puedo hacer una pregunta española? Un poco
Sí.
por el tema de la tributación, en el tema porque sabemos que en Inglaterra no funciona de esa manera, pero en España sabemos cómo va el tema de las donaciones, tributaciones.
Taxes? Yeah.
Sí. Spain taxes is
Yeah.
a video game.
So Fernando has been torturing me, terrorizing me for the last 3 weeks about taxes. He's like, Spanish taxes. It sounds like are very serious here. I might talk to an accountant before I ran a project. In the US, your income for us, but I think we have a different tax structure. It's because we would get taxed end of the year on the whole thing, but I don't think that works here. So, I mean, you might ask Fernando, maybe after this, we'll have he can give you his dissertation. He has a big book that he wrote.
La pregunta es si hay 100.000 personas que te dan 15 euros, tienes que tributar esas 100.000 donaciones.
Tienes que tributar solamente la parte española y la parte europea que está sujeto a IVA.
Si son 50.000, hay que hacer 50.000 tributaciones.
No, 50.000 tributaciones no las agrupas.
Las agrupas en una sola. Es como si hicieses un equity entonces con ello.
No.
¿La parte europea tiene IVA?
Depende qué país, sí.
So, all right, we'll go to.
We will talk later.
Yeah, we'll talk later. Yeah. You had another question.
I have the idea that the typical bakers were unknown people for you, for the
Yes.
the project. But you talk about the common people, the networks you can achieve, or what's the balance? How many? What's the typical numbers for the projects? Make it from known people for the creators or unknown people that just arrive to Kickstarter and start searching for some interesting projects?
Well, maybe less than 1% of projects on Kickstarter are from known people, right? From people like famous people or with an audience. Yeah, it's a very small slice. I mean, they tend to be very big projects. They get a lot of like publicity and attention, but most projects that fund on Kickstarter are from people like you and me, who aren't famous.
But I mean, even I'm unknown that get funded by known people from me. I mean, family, friends.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I see. We used to have a number for this.
I mean, I don't really know the exact numbers, but
No.
Get an idea.
So all right. So yeah. Okay. I'm forgetting where I am. Okay. So your family and friends are super important to your project, no matter what size project that you're doing. Getting that initial like supportive burst onto your project is great. It's very helpful to have that, those numbers on the project. My mom does not back my projects. She can't figure out Kickstarter. It's a little disappointing. Mom, I've run 4 projects now, but it is significant. Like seeding your project, because remember, as I said, like getting 1 backer, getting 25 backers, getting 30 backers, like these are very significant moments, even though they seem very small. But I can't, so like obviously everybody's family and friends network is different size, but I can tell you about social networks. Like, I can tell you about social stuff. So first of all, so if you do have a social following, if you have social media or whatever, you figure 1 to 5% of the people are gonna come over and pledge. And the 5% is only for like, super like enthusiastic communities. So to really get a lot of social media traction, you have to have a very big following, right? So you get to think in terms of that as well. But the biggest driver for social is Facebook. So when you're building your project now, all of you, when you're building your project, think about how you can share it on Facebook without saying, hey, I'm doing a Kickstarter project, give me money. Don't ever say that. Make a cool GIF, make some cool art, find something that people will click on Facebook and say, oh, that's cool, what's that, right? Because then it will spread out beyond your friends and family, beyond your immediate network. It's very important. I can't stress how important creating stuff for Facebook is at this point. But then I keep talking about community on Kickstarter, and what you'll see, I don't have an image of it, but there's a little pie chart behind your project that shows where all your backers are coming from, and it'll show how many are direct from you, how many are from media, how many from social media. But part of that pie will show how many are from us. And Kickstarter for games very reliably contributes about 30% of your funding. So we can't, 30% of the funding rarely is enough to completely fund your project, but it's a significant chunk of what you're making. So if you can get your family and friends on there, get your whatever little social media you can get on there, we'll add to that. Kickstarter will amplify that. Not through magic, whatever, just because that's the way the kind of the community and the energy works on Kickstarter. Does that help? Is that useful?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is there anyone who hasn't asked a question? Sorry, I just want to make sure that we spread it around. Okay.
Do you have backers for each category? Let's say, do you have people like you for music?
Yes.
Literature?
Yes. Yeah. We have people in almost every category. We don't have. There's a few categories we haven't covered, but yeah, we have music and film and publishing, technology, design.
Do you talk with them? Like you support them? You give them help? Because sometimes if you just hope to raise, let's say, 100 or 1,000 euros or pounds or whatever, and you get like 1 million. the developer, the guy who's doing the project maybe is lost.
Yeah.
Do you help them like?
Yes.
You have to do this, you can do this, or
Yeah.
which way is better?
That's part of our jobs. Like for the people on my team, for me in particular, like that's part of my job. It's my mission, my personal mission, to be able to help someone all the way from design to fulfillment. Right? I know. I mean, I've worked in games for a long time. I've published many games on my own. I know all of the steps. And if I don't know them myself, like if it's something very technical for like a video game, like I know somebody who knows. Like I'm a resource for you to use to answer questions. I can tell you how to get your game into distribution or whatever you need. I mean, for video games, it's very easy these days. You just sign up for Steam, but.
Does Kickstarter takes any credit of the success of the project?
All of it, of course. You have to put our name over your name, like a big sticker on the.
No, just saying.
No. No, you don't.
Mind. I mean, if you help me to launch my project to get success.
No, we don't take a percentage and force you to put our name on it. The success is all yours. Honestly, we've created a platform, but it's your good idea, it's your community, it's your hard work that we're helping. Right, we're helping in a small way. We're just helping you raise money, which is the least of your worries. Once you're an alum, as we say, once you've run a Kickstarter project, you're kind of part of the family, and we'll always help you. But you never have to put our name on the box, or you don't have to give credit or anything like that. That's up to you. Yeah, cool.
You said before that it's a lot of work when the project it's alive.
Yes.
What kind of work does it involve?
Okay, so I noted that it's a lot of work when you're running your Kickstarter project. What kind of work does it involve? So for a live Kickstarter project, you should anticipate there's kind of two paths. One, your project's doing great, the best path, right? And so you're answering questions, you're talking to people, you're getting inquiries from the press, you maybe do an interview, it's great, there'll be a lot of comments on the project. You'll also be building updates. You should be thinking for a live project, and think about this right now. Like if you're gonna think, well, maybe in the future I'll do a Kickstarter project, I want you to think about this right now, that you need 8 parts of your story that you need to tell over the 4 weeks, 2 a week, that are not, hey, we raised $10, we're doing great. No, not about money, about you, about your story, about the beautiful animations, about the studio that the thing is made in, beautiful, parts of the story that are unique to you, right? They're called updates on the site, and you should have about 2 a week to tell your story. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but sometimes there'll be a moment like you get funded, you post an update saying, "Yay, thanks everybody," and that doesn't count toward the 8, right? So those stupid updates take work, it's like a blog post essentially, right? Oh my God, for my last project, I was doing research, I was looking into what comic books were published in August of 1998 and what the covers were. I was doing all this crazy research for these updates, and they were good though. They were good updates. People, the backers of the project loved them, but they take work. It takes and it's work that is not doing the thing that you want to be doing, right? It's not making the game or making the music or whatever you're doing. It's a separate stream of work. So that's path one. The other alternate is that you're not funded, and then you have to be contacting your network, you emailing everyone, telling them that your project's live, posting on Facebook, and doing your updates, and answering comments for people that have backed your project, right? and and holding your head high and being proud and and being enthusiastic and positive, like all of it. But it's work, contacting media and saying, hey, I have this great game, can you cover me? Or contacting bloggers, recording demos, like creating new content, thinking about the campaign. What can I change to make it better? Like if we're not funded, is there anything I need to do? It's yeah, those are the kind of the two paths. How are we doing for time?
It's 2:30. I think we should.
Sure. You want to take one more internet question?
One more.
One more, and
There is something that a couple of them have asked.
internet.
It's about if they will be still allowed to release US dollar or pounds projects now that the Kickstarter is available here.
Still allowed to.
So I think the question is that many people think that about what we said before about the backers, that they are going US backers are going to watch the projects in US dollars and not in euros.
Right.
And you can explain that.
Right. So, as I said, when you launch your projects, you'll see euros. They'll be collected in euros, not dollars. So, it is a common practice right now for, or before today, to create a company in the United States in order to have a bank account in the United States in order to collect in dollars. Can you still do that? If you want, it's very expensive, and it's very troublesome. It's also very dangerous for your project. I have seen examples of this. I have lived examples of this falling apart, where you hire someone to create this company for you or to work with you in the States. Maybe they're a game publisher in the States, and they, so you have this relationship, and then they collect this money for you, and then they don't want to work with you anymore. They don't want to have this relationship with you anymore. It's too much work, and they are in control of your bank account, and it's very problematic. So I recommend that you put as little distance between yourself and your money. But if you still want to do it in dollars, that's fine. There is zero evidence, by the way, that dollars are more successful than pounds or more successful than euros. It's a observer's bias is what it comes down to. That people get scared, so they launch a project in US dollars, or they can only launch a project in US dollars. They think, oh, this is why I'm successful. It's not an evidence of correlation.
And even though the US backers are going to watch the projects, your projects in US dollars.
Yeah, and right, and now US backers will see your project in US dollars anyway, so it's fine. It's all good. We'll close out and then we'll answer your question. Is that good?
Yeah.
We're good? All right. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your questions. I hope that was helpful, and wait. Where am I going? I'm going the wrong way. Yeah, there you are. This is no joke. This email address goes to me wherever I am in the universe at the time. You can't escape it. Yeah, that iamgames@kickstarter.com. So if you have any questions, you can email me. Great.
You're still strong?
I'm good. Just getting started.
Thank you.
Give me a third one.
Just
Don't give me a third
one. Another one.
No, don't do it.
There's